From Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, this is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And what a game, AJ. I don't really know where to start. Again, Carolina getting the victory over number 10 Wake Forest, 58-55 here on this very field. I feel like we've had a lot of these conversations before, usually about a different format. Usually with Carolina, it seems like this year losing in a game like this. But I think we need to start on the offensive side of the ball from what we saw today. I thought Carolina was really, really good on the ground. Started with Ty Chandler, 330 total yards rushing for the Tar Heels today. I know Sam Howell looked good with his legs. The way he just bounces off defenders and keeps evading guys like he's Javonte Williams out there at times is unbelievable. So credit to him for what he was able to do on the ground. But I think really Ty Chandler in particular was big time for this team. 4 touchdowns for him as well. Also had some guys step up in the receiving game. A relatively quiet day for a guy like Josh Downs, but Antoine Green steps up and is a leading receiver for the Tar Heels, has a big touchdown pass. Even Justin Olsen, I think he ended up with 1 catch, but it was a 45-yard bomb that personally I didn't think he had any business catching. It was a great catch by him. So. Yeah. I think what we saw offensively today, when you look at that 58-point mark, that's obviously where we need to start. We'll move on to the defense here in a little bit, but overall, I thought Carolina had a really, really good offensive display today.
When you're talking about Sam, I tweeted that he pinballed his way into the end zone.
That's true.
And for some reason, Pinball Wizard by the Who popped into my mind. They should play that.
Every time he does it.
Since it'll be his last home game here in a couple of weeks, when they introduce him, they should play Pinball Wizard for a second. I mean, Sam, we talked so much about Sam, and we have to talk about him again because he was a warrior again today. And he scored the first 2 touchdowns by willing himself into the end zone. And they needed it because Wake was kind of moving the ball and scoring too. So I kind of felt like Sam was the giant Band-Aid keeping this thing together for a long time until you got to the 4th quarter, and boom. Ty Chandler told us in January, remember that Zoom we did with him in January after he announced he was transferring, and he was part of the program and stuff, and he said one of the reasons he came here was because of what Michael Carter and Javonte Williams did. He looked like a combination of the 2 of them today, especially in the 4th quarter. He finished with 213 yards, but he had rushing touchdowns of 13, 21, and 50 yards in the 4th quarter. And Sam said after the game, a couple weeks ago against Miami on this very field, they were ahead. They needed to just get a couple of first downs, keep the ball, eat up clock, salt the game away, and they were unable to do it. So he said they tweaked a few things, and perhaps maybe one of them was giving the ball to Ty instead of having Sam just run into the line on 3rd and 9 or whatever it was. And he burst one for 50 yards that you thought at the moment, and I tweeted out, well, that seals the game for North Carolina, and then inexplicably they did a squib kick and gave life to Wake Forest. I don't understand that at all. This segment's about the offense. Antoine Green, 6 catches. You mentioned Justin Olsen. Remember earlier in the year, very similar play, almost same spot, where the DB wrestled the ball away from him.
Yep.
He got the ball this time. He made the play, and I actually thought there was another time he was wide open, and he didn't get the ball because there was a PI. I think the referees for a stretch there, this is for both teams, just stopped throwing flags because their arms were tired. Because there was one play, 5 flags.
I was about to say that.
5 flags. Like, good gracious.
They came out of everywhere. Like it was hilarious. They were
falling from the sky. And points were falling from the sky. And Carolina basically had to score enough points to win this game. And that's any game, obviously. But my point here is that to beat Wake Forest, you get a couple of stops and just make sure you keep scoring. And they did that. You know, they had a couple of curious things, but honestly, a couple of curious things in a day where you score 58 points, 565 whatever yards it was, 31 first downs, 330 yards rushing. Sam, by the way, with a 5th 100-yard rushing game of the season.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, this was a really, really terrific performance by the offense because a lot of other guys were involved.
Yeah.
And by the way, Chandler had a 30-yard reception and set up a score as well. So great game for Ty Chandler. Great game as usual for Sam. By the way, he's the all-time leader in total yardage here, passing Marquise Williams. And he did it in 34 games. Not even 3 full seasons.
It's a heck of a guy.
Offensive line, you know, they got their rear ends beaten up by people for a good chunk of the season, but ground game's no longer an issue.
No.
It was a huge issue. You guys were probably annoyed when we would talk about it in these videos. Oh, there's AJ talking about between the tackles, conventional running. It's not an issue anymore. They're running the ball. Sam did get sacked 3 times, but otherwise pretty good protection, good enough in order for them to score 58 points. So they scored 58 points and got a win because they had to score 58 points to get a win, which we'll hit on right now. And my hands are cold, so I'm sticking in my pockets, so I'm breaking rules right now.
It's cold out here, guys. Don't get it twisted. I think it's gotten colder since the game ended, to be honest with you.
It's gotten colder since we got down.
It's dropping. There was a hurricane gust winds about 5 minutes before we started this video, too, that came out of nowhere. So we're battling the elements out here, AJ. Got to get respect for that. We talked about
toughing this one out.
Yeah, exactly. We talked a lot about the good. Let's flip over to the bad, if you will, with the defense's performance today. 55 points. I know this is a Wake Forest team that offensively is just extremely prolific. We saw that today. Really, really good Wake Forest offense. So it's not like we didn't expect this in some ways coming into the game in terms of Wake Forest just doing what they want on the offensive side of the ball. Finished with over 600 total yards on offense. Had it 500 at the end of the third quarter alone, which I had to double take in my phone and be like, oh my gosh.
They had 206 in the third quarter.
Yeah. So
in the third quarter.
Tells you all you need to know, but you had guys make plays, though. I mean, at times. You know, I know Cam Kelly had 2 big picks. I know for both of them, I don't think Sam Hartman saw him on either one because he just kind of threw it right to him. I know Kelly came for the first one, kind of came out of nowhere, made a play, but that second one was thrown straight to Cam Kelly. Still had to make a play, and they ended up being a big one for the Tar Heels. But defensively, it just kind of seems like the same thing. I thought pressure was an issue for a lot of the game. I thought there was a couple plays. There was one in the first half in particular where Des Evans has Hartman for a sack and just runs right past him, misses the tackle, and I think Wake Forest ends up gaining yards on that play. So it's kind of same old, it feels like on this defense. It feels like we're kind of having the same conversations that we've always had where you're not really seeing it get any better. If anything, maybe it's not getting a lot worse. It's kind of just staying bad. But overall, it seems like at times if Carolina, I'll end it with this before I kick it to you. If Carolina had an average defense, I think they win by double digits today.
We'll probably hit on that maybe when we do our pod in a couple of days, and I think that's something worth hitting on. But I'll tell you what, if they had an offense that we'd pretty much seen all year long, which has been really good but not great, and I think they were borderline great today, they would have been blown out today.
Oh, absolutely.
So at the point where they got those 3 stops, and those 3 stops are very important. In fact, Noah's writing about it right now, the sidebar.
Right up there.
Because in my 5 keys, I said, they just got to get a few stops.
Yeah, they
got to get a couple turnovers, because if Carolina could score, Wake's defense isn't very good, and just keep scoring, that might actually be enough to win the game. Well, it was. But up to the point before they got those 3 stops, they were getting blown out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if Sam and Ty and Antoine Green and those guys didn't keep plugging along and kind of putting stress on Wake's offense and giving the defense a chance to make those big stops, it wouldn't have mattered.
No.
But, I mean, the defense was terrible again.
Yeah.
They gave up 294 yards in the first half. They gave up 321 in the second half.
That's good math.
It's the same stuff. They gave up 5 scoring drives with 75 or more yards. In the last 2 weeks, they've given up 10 of 73 or more and 12 of 63 or more. I could keep going on and on and on. I do it a lot. Read my stuff. I littered it with all these numbers. It's pretty gross. And the defense is really bad. And it's not like, oh, they played badly today. They're bad every week. They haven't been good since Duke, and they've only been good against Virginia Tech, pretty much against Georgia State and Duke. The rest of the time, they've had terrible 2-quarter stretches that we have literally showered our podcast with.
We had no choice. We've got to talk about it,
They actually had 2 of them today, 294 in the first half, 321 in the second half. But they won because they made some plays. And Cam Kelly, I think in that second interception, maybe I'm wrong, I thought Hartman may have thought that Carolina jumped off sides and it was a free play.
I did see something like that.
He may have thought it was a free play. We'll have to see what he said after the game. But nevertheless, you still just don't throw the ball.
It was right to
unless
him,
you know.
It was right to him as well.
And Cam made a play. Cam had to cut and break for the ball. So he had everything covered well. They actually stepped up and held him to 58 total yards in those 3 possessions. Look, when you're in a shootout, you just got to have someone come step up and make a play. What did we say after Miami? Be the one.
Be the one,
Gemmell hit the arm of Van Dyke, and Cedric Gray was right there. You got to be there to make plays. The ball finds guys that are playing well. And of all the negatives on this defense this year, Cam Kelly's a positive.
Big positive, yeah.
He's playing well. You know, I don't think he even played defensively in the Virginia Tech game. Maybe a couple of snaps.
Maybe very few if he played.
And he is a guy who is actually ticking upward. And by the way, Storm.
I was about to say, got to give him
played, made some plays. I mean, you can't play a great defensive game when you give up 6,000 points.
Yeah.
And by the way, 35 first downs for Wake Forest today.
Unbelievable. 35.
I thought when ECU had 39 back in 2014 in that ridiculous 70-41 game, I thought I'd never see something close to that again, at least for a while. Well, 35 today. Carolina at 31. The defense was terrible. They've got enormous issues. The issues didn't go away today, but credit the kids for hanging in there, for having resolve, and making plays. They could have wilted, and that's something we've seen a lot from this team. People are complaining about the coaching and questioning Mac maybe doesn't have it anymore, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have it, your kids give up.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, they don't have the resolve. They fought off Miami. They had the resolve there. They hung with Notre Dame last week. Could have gotten blown out in that one, and they were in position with a minute and a half to maybe make something interesting happen there, and they had the resolve today. So when those things are happening, the staff has the kids. Maybe there's something wrong with some scheme stuff. Maybe the kids aren't communicating the way they need to communicate. Maybe they just aren't ready yet because so many of the better players, more talented players in this program are still young. But the kids aren't quitting. The staff still has them.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'll give a quick shout out to, I thought Power Eccles had a pretty good game too. Stepping in for a guy like Gimmel, first real kind of time being thrown into the fire, like, hey, it's your time to go play that linebacker position. There was one play, a couple plays in particular where he was, you know, mid-play doing things that you've seen from Gimmel, telling guys on the line to move over. I don't know if you noticed that as well.
Remember, we'll stay on defense here. Bateman's been telling us a lot that Cedric Gray's playing both, the Mike and both linebacker positions, and Gimmel's one is the one that makes the calls.
Yes.
When they put Power Eccles in, they put him in the Gimmel spot. They didn't slide Cedric over to that.
I thought that was surprising,
And I thought that was a great test. He got a lot of wonderful stuff on film. People are complaining about the targeting call on Gimmel. Look long term. Power Eccles got snaps today he otherwise wouldn't have gotten, and he's going to benefit big time. People thought that, well, maybe he was only going to get a huge lump of playing time against Wofford, and what's he really going to learn from in that game?
It's not the same level,
He got it today against the best offense they're going to face all year, and he made mistakes. Everybody made mistakes, but he got a lot of stuff on film. He'll grow from this big time.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he grades out at as well. We'll see that over the next couple of days. It'll be interesting to see what PFF has him grading out as. But
Kelly will grade over 60 because of 2 picks.
Exactly.
I don't know if anybody else will.
We'll move on from the defense because I'm freezing. I know AJ's freezing as well. AJ,
I have to type with frozen feet. Wait, they are.
I'm telling you, I'm sitting here too. This wind's a little bit brutal. I know the little wind interference in that segment as well, so hopefully it didn't sound too bad. But AJ, last thing I want to touch on, kind of ask you, I should say, well, what does this mean?
Well, unless a meteorite hits Kenan Stadium in a couple weeks and they lose to Wofford, they're going to a bowl. I think they saved themselves from extreme embarrassment of starting the season ranked number 10 and not going to a bowl. What they get are all those extra practices, and regardless of what decision Sam makes or if anybody else opts out, they get a lot of reps. The young guys like Power Eccles get a lot more reps, so I think it's a lot of extra stuff that they can get that will help them spring into next season, because Mac's already talked about the way they close this year. They do it positively, can feed into spring, which feeds into next season. So they already have their eyes on that thing. They want to connect a lot of positives. So the positive is they're going to have that opportunity. And really kind of in a crazy way, I don't think they're completely out of the Coastal yet.
No, they're not.
And they go to Pitt Thursday night. Look, if Western Michigan could put 44 on Pitt and Miami could beat them there, this North Carolina team can, although Kenny Pickett's probably licking his chops with this defense. But what does it mean? It means that, as Max said, they can wake up tomorrow morning excited about going to practice because there's no day off. It's a short week. They got to jump right into it. Always easier to prepare after a win than after a loss. No doubt about it, especially the way this thing was going for a while. Morale has to be better. They were able to win a game in which their best player on defense, and Gimmel is their best player on defense, in which he was out most of the game because of the targeting. They were able to win a game when it wasn't just Sam, and it wasn't just Josh
Other guys
Downs.
stepped up.
Other guys stepped up. A lot of guys are going to be called out by the staff and say, okay, kudos to such and such, kudos to such and such. And they can tell a little bit of a different story when they talk about how and why they won this game. And the bottom line is that thing's blowing like crazy.
This wind is unbelievable.
Look, this fan base needed a win. people that care about this program needed a win. It doesn't really matter how they got it. It's a W in the win column. They're going to take it, stick it in their back pocket, and move on. They're going to get to go to a bowl game this year. Maybe win more than 6 games. Who knows?
But yeah, it's potential for it. Yeah.
You got to win. If you can win and grow, that's a wonderful thing. And they should be able to grow from this. We've been talking about that a lot.
Yep.
Maybe they will.
Yeah.
We'll find out Thursday night.
Yeah.
And it'll be colder up there.
Yeah, quick turnaround Thursday night in Pittsburgh. That's gonna be a chilly one. Yeah. Open press box or no?
No, it's a Steelers stand, but it's far away from the action there too.
Yeah,
so
I've heard.
I'm flying in and flying out.
Yeah, in and out.
I'm landing at 3 o'clock, and I have a 5:40 flight out the next morning. So I'm not taking luggage, man. It's my game bag, my laptop there, Uber back to the stadium. A couple years ago, I was the only guy going through TSA. Because I went straight from the stadium back to the airport. So.
Only guy. That's got to be hard to do. That's got to be like a record.
I had like 9 CSA guys staring at me.
Yeah, they're like, who is this guy?
Better not screw up here.
I love it. Carolina getting the win over Wake Forest. Number 10 Wake Forest. I'll throw that in there as well. 58-55. If you enjoyed the win, if you like AJ's sport coat as well, because he's looking good right here, go ahead and give this video a like. It is cold out here. And promo as well. Hubert 21. You can get free. You can get a. I can't even talk right now because it's so cold. A free month at TarHeelIllustrated.com. Premium subscription for free. Use the promo code Hubert21. You can find the link to our description in the. There's a link to our website in the description below. So cold I can't even talk out here or move my hands. You guys know what to do though. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one, and thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks.